So we have Terry Jansen representing Brightside Animal Center. You're on the board. You're the treasurer. Terry's, I call her the mayorette of Redmond. I don't know. I see you everywhere. So without further ado, Terry.
Thank you. I will be brief because I'm a relief pitcher. I didn't have a lot of notice. So basically, like he said, Terry Jansen, a lot of you in here know me because of the chamber and the planning commission and
everything else.
All the other stuff. At any rate, so Brightside Board is one of my favorite because it's mostly fun. I'll just briefly do an overview of it, of Brightside itself and what we're looking for and what we're doing, and then I would love questions. So that's kind of how I like to do my thing. There's two of my adopters right there.
Yes.
I am also a bottle baby foster mama, which those of you who saw me last summer carrying around 3 kittens because they had to be fed every 2 hours to all the events. Mm-hmm. So anyway, Brightside's considered a high safe shelter. We have the lowest number of euthanasias in the entire state and are in the top 10 for lowest number of euthanasias nationally. So yeah, that's a good one. We are dedicated to providing the best care and the best homes and the best everything we can for these animals. We rarely will turn an animal away. In fact, we don't most of the time unless we're just so full we can't. And in that case, then we work with other shelters in the area and find places for them to go so they can find homes. We also have a trap and release program, which means feral cats will get caught, trapped. We bring them in, vaccinate them, fix them if they aren't already fixed. And the way, so if you see cats in your neighborhood with the clip tip on their ear off, that means that they are feral, but they have been treated and fixed. So they're not out there making babies. Oh, another thing that people may not know too is the Sheriff's Department and RDM police have 24/7 access. So they bring in strays, or if you find a stray, you can call the police department and they'll come and pick it up. They have 24/7 access to Brightside, so they can bring those strays in. They get them all set up, we get them food and water and make sure they're taken care of in that moment, and then they're processed the next day for the next open day that the shelter is open. Currently we are open Tuesday through Saturday from 10 to 4. We've got some exciting things coming down the pipe as far as the organization and some new leadership and new ideas, and we're hoping to expand those hours. So, and then we also have bottle and can program. So we have a drop location both at Brightside Shelter and at the Brightside Thrift Store. Last year that was almost $200,000 of our revenue.
The bottle and cans?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yes.
200,000?
Yes.
That's 2 million cans.
Yes.
Bottles.
And that's all processed by volunteers.
Wow. Jeez.
So yes, obviously we are a nonprofit. Donations are how we fly, and so that's just. I was blown away when I found that number. I thought they had to be smoking something. But no, and we're already on track to bring in more this year. So, and then we also have the thrift store, which is going through some changes too. We don't compete quite as well with Goodwill and St. Vincent's and Opportunity Foundation because we don't have enough volunteers to bring stuff in. So we're limited to a couple days a week right now when people can come and drop stuff off. And people don't want to keep it in their cars, so if we're not open to take it, then they're just going to go across the street to Goodwill or someplace else. So we're working on getting that better dialed in, even if it's just receiving, it doesn't have to be processed right away. So those are our three main things. We are currently looking for fosters. We're desperately in need of fosters. That doesn't mean you have to get bottle babies that have to be fed every 2 hours around the clock. We have hospice animals. We have animals that are just don't thrive well in that environment and just need to be loved until we can find them a home. Pregnant animals, if you're good with delivering babies. That's another one I do. Sick animals that just need time to heal, that kind of thing. I myself, my first foster fail in 30 plus years of fostering off and on was one of my three. In fact, it was one that they were going to, Hannah was going to take, McGee. Anyway, he had a bent foot, so we knew he was going to get amputated. What we didn't know is that sometimes bottle babies will suckle on each other for comfort, and one of them suckled and bit his penis off, so he could not pee outside of his body, and we didn't know it until they went in to fix him. It was like at any rate, it was, yeah. So he had a 10% chance of survival, but so he's my little transgendered tripod because he's now 9 months old, and his two siblings.
He's still alive.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
He's the spawn of Satan. He terrorizes my house.
Well,
and he pees like a girl. He didn't know what he was missing. So anyway, and they took the other two. So and I'm sure they're still crazy too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, so that's that's my Brightside story. It's no, it was amazing. He survived. I mean, he literally had less than 10% chance of survival from the surgery. The vet literally took him home every day. He stayed with her so she could watch to make sure it didn't close up. And about 5 weeks in, I got the call. He still wants to be, or needs a little more foster time. Well, at that point, there was no way he was going to anybody else. I had now been taking care of this kitten since he was 2 days old, so so I knew I would be a foster fail for the first time, which is what they call it when you actually keep one of the foster animals. So, at any rate, so that's basically, yeah, go ahead.
Do you have vets on site, or do you partner with veterinarians?
We have a vet on site. Yeah.
Does your foster fail call themselves they?
No, no, he doesn't have pronouns. He's definitely all boy,
Yeah.
with that one exception.
But seriously, besides dogs and cats, what kind of animals do you get?
We've gotten rabbits in, we've gotten, I mean, pretty much anything. We don't take large animals, we really don't have a place for them. So they'll go to the county facility. But yeah, pretty much we've had people bring in hamsters and rats and rabbits, but for the most part it's cats and dogs.
What's capacity?
We don't really have a capacity right now. I think the most that, if I can remember this correctly, the most that we've had in there was over 100 animals at one time. So we've expanded our kennels area. The cats are, unless they've got feline leukemia, they're freewheeling. They just sort of run the whole front of the building. Although apparently not all of them like all people.
No, they don't.
Dave had an episode. But the dogs, because it's so traumatic, dogs don't respond as well to that environment. Cats are a little bit more flexible because they're so independent anyway. So the dogs get stressed out really easily. So that's why people ask me all the time, why can't we just walk back and look at the dogs and see which one picks us? Well, you can't because it gets all the dogs all stirred up. They get excited or they get stressed out and they can get aggressive. So that's why we have people check out the animals on the website where they've got pictures and descriptions, and then we'll let you see as many as you want, but they're brought into a room on their own in a much less threatening kind of way. Because especially if you're walking through the kennels and you have one that's just really nervous, they start going crazy and that gets them all going crazy. So,
I've had mostly large dogs in the past. I had a Nikita lab mix. She lived till when she was 18 years old. And I had a Newfoundland lab mix. She was 16. My question is this: my son has a male dog there, and would it be better to have introduce a female to the house than a male, so to avoid dominance problems?
Not always. It depends on what. A lot of that has to do with, first of all, if they're fixed or not. If they're fixed, sometimes with males, depending if they're, in fact, in horses they call it proud cut. They're gelded later in life instead of when they're young. It's still a personality thing. It's not necessarily a female to male or male to male thing. It's just like people. You know, some of us get along better with others.
The reason why I asked that, we had a brother and sister introduced to the house, and the female took on my Akita because she thought she was dominant or something, and it was a pretty nasty fight. So I just want to avoid that.
Yeah, it's just, and yeah, sometimes you just have to. That's another thing too. If you're adopting a dog from Brightside and you currently have a dog, that they have to have a meet and greet before they'll adopt to you. Go ahead. Barb?
No, don't. Go ahead.
Well, I was just curious. I think I've heard something called Bow Wow Bingo. Is that something?
Oh yeah, we
you
do
guys
the.
do?
That's so on at 7th Street Brew House. I think it's a third Thursday of every month. Yeah. Yeah, they do bingo. It's Louise Ann Kaplan
Yes.
calls bingo and that's another pretty good fundraiser we have. That was shut down for quite a while with all the COVID stuff, but it's back in action now.
My question, or really request, is if you could describe the foster process, so, kind of like from start to finish, what's involved, cost,
It's
typical.
there's no cost. That's the whole point is the Brightside, we fund it all. So the very first thing is wanting to be one. And then we do a foster orientation. We've got one coming up, I think, on the 16th. All of that's on there. So we have a foster orientation. And basically, Carol Staropoli, who does she's our foster coordinator, will talk to however many people are in the class and ask them, well, what are you, a dog person? Are you a cat person? Do you want puppies or kittens, or do you want sick, or do you want a hospice care as a big one where you're just gonna, they're basically hospice, but so you're just gonna love them until they pass away. So there's all kinds of parts to being it, and it all depends on what you want to be. There's a few of us that are willing to do any of it. I try to stick to more cats because that's what I've got. So, so then once you go through the foster orientation and you fill out the paperwork, then it's just a matter of, I think when I went through their foster program on a Saturday and got a call at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning with the kittens. So I don't think it's usually that fast, but it can be. So so it's such an extensive thing that it'll be geared towards what your type of fostering you want to do.
So is there an average or a typical time you foster, or do you see
If you're talking in kittens and puppies, then it's generally 8 to 10 weeks until they're ready to be adopted out, especially if they're bottle babies. Bottle babies take a little bit longer because they usually start a little bit slower and don't grow quite as fast because they don't have a mama. But yeah, so that's the standard. And then again, we provide all the food, we provide any medications. They'll get taken in and checked. If they're puppies and kittens especially, they get shots of worm medicine every couple of weeks. So that's pretty much the biggest commitment. The bottle babies are a huge commitment. That's literally feeding them every 2 hours around the clock for 4 weeks. And then it goes to like 4 hours until they can eat food.
What's the strangest animal coming to the shelter?
Well, in my time, we haven't had the strange animal come in, so I honestly can't answer that question. But
Probably
I
a
will.
human.
Huh?
Probably a human.
We have a lot of strange humans coming in. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, but you know what? I'll find out and I'll let Chris know so he can get that question answered.
Okay.
My guess would be probably a icky snake. You know, that's boa or something like that. But anyhow,
About your thrift store, what did you say? There's limited days that we can drop off donations?
Yes.
What are those days? I didn't catch it.
I think they're Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's on the website. The Brightside website's got all that information and it's broken down really neat and tidy. But we are working on getting, again, volunteers. So besides fostering volunteers, we need in all aspects of the shelter. We need it in bottles and cans, at the thrift store especially, and at Brightside as well. We're revamping our dog walking program, so we're not doing that right now with volunteers, that's staff. One of the things that if you are volunteering to work with the animals, you will be allowed or asked to take, it's called Fear Free program, and it's a certification, continuing education certification for any animal handlers so that you learn how to properly handle the animals. We've not really had a real strong background with people who know what they're doing, and we've had bites and we've had issues because it was just lack of knowledge. So now, from now on, going forward, everybody who volunteers to handle animals takes it. It's not difficult. It just takes a little time, but it's actually, if you're even an animal owner, it's a good program to take. Just interesting, like questions like girls, boys getting along more, so that would be answered, or what to look for if you think there's a problem. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. A little good for it. I'm going to do a picture.
Oh.
Travis was.
I know. He's my buddy. I watch his kids, you know. He has to be nice to me.
Stuff like that.
So a couple more last minute announcements. Food's free game. Please tip your servers. If you did eat, that would be great. And then I will make sure we get dismissed, and we'll see you all next week.